Hey, what's up everybody? This is Damron with Trash Ass Gamers, bringing you another Elder Scrolls Online Veteran Dungeon Guide. This is for March of Sacrifices, which is part of the Wolfhunter DLC. This particular dungeon is found in Greenshade, which is obviously in the Aldmeri Dominion portion of Tamriel. So if you haven't seen any of these guides before, I will keep them as complete playthroughs. We'll fast forward through some of the ads to make the video a little bit shorter, and we'll focus mainly on the boss mechanics of the dungeon. We'll also talk a little bit about the lore of the dungeon as we're progressing through with some time to spare. But mainly we're going to focus on boss mechanics and to kind of help you guys out if you're having difficulty with the dungeon. Now I do think this is one of the, if not the hardest dungeon in sense of hard mode that's out right now. The hard mode is very, very difficult, but hopefully we'll give you some strategies that'll help you guys out. So a little bit about the lore of March of Sacrifices is very interesting. So we're actually in Hircine's realm, which is a sanctuary to wildlife and is worshipped as the birthplace of werewolves. And it's also the host realm of the Hunt, in which we are taking place, which is a Daedric season that celebrates life through natural courses of action, that being predators and stalking prey. So we're rolling up on the first set of bosses here, which is Wyress Strigidae, Wyress Rangifer, and Wyress Ursus, who honestly is not too difficult of a boss. You just kind of need to know what's going on here. So the red or yellow looking one, depending on your settings, I guess, is the Wyress Rangifer, and this one does a charged snipe, but also heals the other two bosses in this fight. So you want to take her down first, and then after that you're going to go after the blue one, which disables magicka skills. So if you're a stand build, it's not going to really cause a problem, but essentially being within her blue circle will silence you. So if you are a mag build, then you're going to have to stay outside of that circle to cast your spells within there, or you will be silenced and thus won't be able to cast them. And while you're taking out those two, the tank is definitely going to want to hold on to the green boss, because that one does a random charge attack, which will charge anybody, but that won't kill you, but also does a very hard hitting heavy attack that will essentially kill any other player. So we want the tank to hold on to the green while the DPS first takes down the red or yellow, and then take down the blue, and then we'll go and finish off the green. So that's not too bad of a fight. So we'll clean that up and then talk a little bit about the lore, because it's kind of interesting and takes place after this fight. Because what happens is, though things die during this hunt, the worshippers of Hircine see the hunt as nature acting freely, and Hircine invites us, as well as many other champions, to his realm to participate in this hunt and kill a Tarcyr, which is one of the enemies that we'll fight later. And actually, you'll see Hanu is a fellow warrior who we help here, and she comes to the aid of her father, who is Tharas. And Tharas dies in the hunt, and he's telling you need to leave and get out of here, and that is because he understands what happens here. And although we fight, many groups in this dungeon, and they pose as bosses as Nord and Balorgh, they're actually driven insane by their time in this realm, and he understands that. So while Hircine's realms looks like the wildlife of Nirn, it's not. The magic actually creeps into the realm and into the minds of the other champions, and eventually drives you insane through the hunt obsession, and you eventually lose all sense of your own humanity. Alright, so we're rolling up on the second boss here, Aghaedh of the Solstice, and this is a very, very easy boss. In fact, you can really just stand here and burn the entire boss down and not even really worry about the mechanics, but I will tell you what the mechanics are. And essentially, the boss will spawn in random colored lurchers, and these will be random. And basically, when you kill them, they'll, create a little item that you can, synergy. And basically, if you don't kill her fast enough, she will eventually do a nuke that will basically kill everybody, unless you go to the color that you synergized with, depending on the color of the lurcher you killed. However, it's a very, very easy fight. If you're running this dungeon and plan on doing it on hard mode, it's unlikely that you're even going to enter that phase. I highly recommend just stand there and burn her down. A quick thing about the ads in this particular area are these sea lurchers. Now, these sea sea lurchers will generate this huge AoE that you saw right there, and it's important to know that you need to block that. If you do not block that, you definitely will die, and especially if you're doing a no death run, it's going to end right there. So be sure you're aware of that. Another thing that'll happen, you'll see that I had a little green AoE down on me right there, is sometimes you will be trapped by the trappers and a teammate needs to come and help you. Now, we're rolling up on our second boss, or our third boss here, and I'm going to show you a little trick. If you stand where I'm standing now, and what one player is going to do is actually go to the boss, shoot a little AoE on them, and come back through before the gate closes. And eventually what's going to happen is the boss is going to do a lunge attack, and he'll end up out here where we are, and we can fight him out here and avoid dealing with the archers that are spawning during the fight. So Dagrund the Bulky is much easier if you bring him out here. So this is a fantastic way to attack this boss. We'll be able to take him down, and all we really need to worry about is dodging those fire AoEs. If you do fight him in the arena where he is, these basically archers will be randomly spawning in throughout the fight, and they can essentially freeze you. And you also, what they'll do is they'll freeze you, and you won't be able to dodge his fiery attack, and that'll end up killing you. So it's much easier to fight him out here, but if you do fight him in there, make sure you are taking priority on those archers, because the archers are no bueno. So just a last bit about the lore of this dungeon. So Hanu is this fellow champion that we're helping get through this realm because she wanted to find her father, whose soul is owned by Hircine, who we saw earlier. And during this whole dungeon, Hircine himself is watching us, and we actually gain his favor by showing him our strength. And as we get to the end, you fight Tarcyr, the Indrik, and you have to bring Tarcyr's heart to offer it to Hircine as an attempt to use it as an offering to bring back her father. However, Hircine tells her that only one soul between the two can leave, and actually when you do the quest, you'll have the option to either let Hanu save her father and sacrifice herself, or have Hanu move on and accept her father's death and save her own life. So the lore in this dungeon is pretty interesting. And you're going to get to this point, and this fight can drag out a little bit. So we'll talk a little bit about this fight. You're going to fight finally Tarcyr the Indrik, and the beginning of the fight introduces you to the phase of the hunt in which you have to crouch and stay hidden. If you uncrouch, you'll kind of despawn and go up into the air and fall down, as I'm showing you right here. And the thing about veteran mode is that if that happens to you 3 times, the third time in the fight that happens, it'll kill you. And then when you're in the hunt phase here, basically this wisp will be flying around the map, and whenever it gets a green AoE around it, you have to synergize on it, and once you do that 3 times, Tarcyr will spawn. And that hunt will happen 3 times throughout the fight, and every time an extra little element will be there that if that element touches you, you'll be launched up into the air. And again, that can only have 3 times the whole fight, so that doesn't mean 3 times per round. It's every phase. So if you were to go up in the first phase, then right here you technically have 2 times that you can go back up. And don't try to res during this phase, because the res will bring you out of your hidden state, and that will make you go up as well. So as you can see here, now we have essentially these glowing Indriks kind of flying around, as well as these ice AoEs kind of coming up on the ground. Again, if any of those hit you, those will no longer make you hidden, and you'll fall out of the sky. So we'll get through this hunt phase, and we'll talk a little bit about the mechanics of Indrik. Alright, so Tarcyr will come in, and often, immediately when Tarcyr comes in, she'll kind of get a little charged up, and whenever she does that, you need to bash, because if not, lightning bolts will come down and strike all of the players, and these can do quite a bit of damage. Now, the Blood-Scent Butchers, as well as the archer enemies, they can trap you similar to what you saw in the ads in the previous area. They'll generate a green AoE around you, and you can't break free of that. One of your teammates have to come and actually synergize on you to free you from that. And if they don't free you long enough, if you're in that state for too long, you will die because you're gradually losing health. So if you do get trapped by them, be sure you call it out. Again, this is the green hunting wisp, so you need to do that 3 times in each hunt phase. And for Tarcyr, also another attack. So a few things about Tarcyr: don't stand on the back legs, because Tarcyr will kick the back legs back, and that can certainly do a lot of damage. As well as the flame attack that he'll do. Basically, Tarcyr will start running in the zigzag direction and create flames on the ground. Obviously, you want to stay out of those flames. So there's the lightning attack. That was a quick bash, so you want to bash that basically immediately. And then another thing that Tarcyr will do is sometimes just charge forward as the tank. You know, that can certainly do a lot of damage, so be careful with that. So here's the zigzag flame. Again, just stay out of that. That's not really going to cause you much damage as long as you just stay out of the flame. And then the last thing Tarcyr will do, sometimes she'll, put her head down and then launch 4 or so ghosts. Right there you see going up to the left, kind of ghost Endrix that are just charging straight forward. They don't move, they just charge straight forward, and if that hits you, it does a little bit of physical damage, but not enough that's really going to kill you. It's probably just going to knock you down, and then you'll be over with that. But again, that lightning phase that you saw there, you definitely need to bash, or that's just going to continue to happen. So that's basically it for this fight. We'll finish Tarcyr up after we do the last hunt phase here, and then we'll be moving on to the final boss on hard mode, which is very, very difficult, and we'll have a lot to talk about. So go ahead and finish up this portion, and we'll meet you there.
Did you really think victory would be so easy? I told you, ass. Here it's hunt or be hunted. Bono, go! We must take back Tarcyr's heart. It's the only way to save my daughter. I'll bury you in an icy grave. Hey, I brought you the heart. Yes, but you're not the one who hunts my hair. Why should I trust this game? You want to hunt the fire. I'll hunt down the one that faced in the first place. Intriguing. Very well. Bring me their hearts, and the proof is yours. Yes, there's information.
Alright, so here we go. Let's go ahead and burn the banner to start hard mode, and we have a lot to talk about here, so let's get right to it. Balorgh basically has multiple attacks that he does, and in hard mode he will do them in and out of his hunt phase, and the hunt phase is the part that's going to give you the most trouble. So Balorgh does a few attacks that you need to be aware of, and I highly recommend you turn your subtitles on so you can see what attack is coming. So the first thing he'll do is he'll slam, and he'll create a bunch of things on the land, in which basically means you can't really go up on that land because the plants are exploding, and those do a lot of damage. And then another thing he'll do is he'll smash down, and right here you see there's a flame attack that basically launches a flame dot on everybody, and you need to roll dodge that because that does quite a bit of damage, and that will tick pretty hard if you don't roll dodge it. And then he'll also slam down and put lightning on the water, in which basically you can't really sit into the water for very long. And then every 20% he's going to go into the hunt phase, which you see here. And the hunt phase is very difficult, and this is going to be the part that gives you the most difficulty, because on hard mode there's not only one kind of Balorgh phantom that you need to kill. There's actually four, which means you need to go to these green portals 4 times. So you need to stick together and go to the green portal to make them dissipate. And the entire time that you're doing this, a difference from the just normal veteran mode is that he's also electrifying the water, and he's also basically putting the plants on the land, and he's also shooting his flame dot on you. So you really need to keep the subtitles on, because that's going to give you an idea of what attack is coming next. Now the land portion AoEs and the lightning on the water always alternate, so it's never going to be like lightning in the water and then lightning on the water again. It's always going to be water, then land, then water, then land. But what you're looking out for, and what you don't know, has a little bit of randomness to it, is that flame dot. When he says, you know, eat my flames or I'll burn you to a crisp, right? That right there. So you actually saw me get hit by that flame AoE, or not flame AoE, excuse me, but that flame damage over time. So you really want to roll dodge that, because if you are low on resources or you don't have much health left, then that's certainly going to kill you. And the hunt phase is definitely tough on your resources. You need to manage your stamina. And the next time we go into the hunt phase, I'll tell you the strategy of how we approach the entire hunt phase. So now that we're back out of the hunt phase, another thing that we want to talk about that he does is he creates this charge attack that leaves flames on the ground behind him. Now that's not going to cause too much damage if you're not just standing inside of it like an idiot. Also, what you need to be aware of is when he does turn the water into the giant electrical field, even though you're on the land, you still need to be moving, because lightning strikes will come down from the sky and hit you while you're standing on the land. But that's okay, you have plenty of time as long as you're strafing. And then when you're not in the hunt phase as well, you want to be, you know, roaming around the map, and anytime you see stranglers, you know, make sure you take them down. You want as few stranglers available to you when you go into the hunt phase, because they will obviously kind of trap you and give you problems if there's tons of them around the edge when you go into the hunt phase, because they can stun you, you know, and that can cause a lot of problems because you need to break free, and then you may get hit by a wolf, which will slow you down, so you're trying to roll dodge out of that. So let's talk about the strategy that we use in the hunt phase. One, we all stay together. We go to the kind of green aura, and what we like to do is we like to put all of our AoEs down it, save your ultimates for that portion, put your AoEs down, and then after you've cast your AoEs, one of your players needs to be running rapid maneuvers, because they will cast rapid maneuvers, and that will prevent you from being snared by the wolves and slowed down, and will also keep you moving quickly without sprinting. You just want to run at a normal pace. If you're sprinting, you're going to have a very, very difficult maintaining your resources throughout the entire hunt phase. It's very, very difficult. It's very resource intense. So you want to minimize the resources you're using by casting rapid maneuvers, and that is certainly critical to getting through this portion of the phase. So drop your AoEs on the green aura, and there you see that strangler kind of stunning me. That's exactly what you don't want to happen, right? You want to try to minimize the amount of stranglers that are there during the hunt phase. And this can be very difficult, right? Because you're in this hunt, it's very dark, you're trying to keep track of all this, and the main thing that's going to give you problems if you're not roll dodging the fire dot and you are, you know, sprinting. If you're sprinting, that's going to cause you problems. Just put on rapid maneuvers on somebody and let that be the speed that you need. Because the dire wolves that are spawning in, if they get too close to you and they touch you, they will slow you down. You know, they'll give you a snare effect. But if you're running rapids, that won't happen, right? You won't get that snare and you won't be slowed down. So keep that in mind. Definitely utilize rapids. Cast your AoEs, rapids onto the next portal. So that's kind of how we handle the hunt phase, but it is difficult. So just keep that in mind. Now, I will say if people do die during the hunt phase, you have you have a lot of opportunity to res out of the hunt phase, because if your tank can hold on to Balorgh, then you really don't have too much to worry about other than the stranglers. And you see, I made a mistake here. I went over to the strangler and he actually snared me right as Balorgh put lightning in the water. So that was kind of bad, but again, we get out of this situation, and that's okay. So we're gonna move, and we're gonna, you know, just let you watch this until we get to the execute phase. There's something very, very important that you need to know go in the execute phase, and we'll talk about that when we get there. We have 2 more hunts to get through, and I'll meet you at that phase. We'll talk about something really important, so you don't die at the very, very end, and then we'll finish this fight off. And I also do want to mention here, you're seeing me heavy attack Balorgh here, and sometimes you'll see me heavy attack Stranglers. Now remember, the hunt starts at every 20%, right? 80, 60, 40, and then 20. So you definitely want to be sure you have your stamina as max as possible prior to entering the hunt phase. So it's, there's no point in blasting all your DPS on Balorgh if it's going to cost you your stamina going into the hunt phase. It's better to take it a little slow on Balorgh, because honestly the non-hunt phase isn't really that difficult. You can really get your resources back here if you kind of take your time and make sure you have max stamina going into the hunt.
Feel venom sting! Hold for another moment. I'm going to set a trap. I'll burn you to a crisp!
And also will say, when you're in this hunt phase, something that we do that you may want to do is designate areas, right? We have the spawn, which is the door, then we have back of the room, and then we have island number 1 and island number 2. So the back of the room was that island number 1 was the left, island number 2 is the right, and then we have essentially the door entrance. So that way, anytime we see the portal, we can quickly call it out, because you really want to stay together in the hunt phases, right? So it could be, if you have everything designated, we'd say, hey, island number 1, and we're all moving that direction. You really don't want to split up. I think I die in this hunt phase, and again, that's okay. If someone goes down in the hunt phase, that's okay, as long as you can get all 4 of them through the portal, and have at least a couple people alive, you'll have plenty of time to res out of the hunt. So, but again, designating some area of the map is going to also help you guys in finding these portals together. So you can see we're kind of taking our time a little bit. Everybody's making sure everybody's resources is max prior to entering this last phase. last hunt phase, and this is why. This is very, very important that when you exit this hunt phase, everybody is alive. So certainly get the first two werewolves into the portal to lower their numbers. But if you're in a situation and you're in the last hunt phase and you have someone dead, you actually need to get them up in the hunt phase prior to ending it. Because when you exit this hunt phase, the wolves will never stop spawning, and they spawn in numbers, so those will snare, and you have a limited amount of time to kill Balorgh before you actually will enter the hunt phase again. So whenever you exit the quote unquote final hunt phase, you're in execute, and you actually need to execute him immediately. It's a very, very short amount of time before it will go back into the hunt phase, and there's exponentially more wolves this time around than the previous hunt phase. So we've got the third guy down. We're going to res up our player, and then we're going to exit the hunt phase and immediately execute and drop our alties, because you really want to be sure you are able to kill Balorgh right after you exit this final hunt phase. Again, you've got one shot. If you enter hunt phase again, it's going to be very, very difficult to survive due to the sheer number of wolves that are going to be on the board. So we don't focus on anything, no stranglers, no werewolves, nothing at this point. It's all DPS on Balorgh. Finish this fight off, and boom, you finished Vet. March of Sacrifices on hard mode, one of the most difficult fights in the game. I hope you guys found this helpful. I know this is very difficult, so let's talk a little bit about the monster set that comes out of here. Also, you'll get the title Hersene's Champion as well, so you can actually rock that if you want to. So that's pretty cool. There you go. So that's going to be in your veteran section of your journal, so you could rock that. So the Balorgh set is actually a pretty cool set. I haven't personally used it, but I like the idea of it. So you're going to get weapon or spell damage depending on if you're mag or stam, and then also when you use an ultimate, you gain weapon and spell damage that's equal to twice the amount of total ultimate consumed for 10 seconds. So I don't know how well that would work with an ulti that you can use quickly, because 10 seconds isn't that long, so you'd want to pair it with something that you use quite often, like in a stand build, if you're using Incapacitating Strike, but again, that doesn't cost much ulti, so I'm not really sure how that would play. So I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Check out our ESO playlist here on the bottom left if you want any more of our ESO content.